this podcast is misogynistic. Is that correct? I don't want to put words in your mouth.
I think that a lot of the conversations surround discrediting misogyny and essentially criticizing women on a hypercritical lens. I mean, I'm not saying specifically you, but I would say, as you were saying, with the mass implication of media, I do think a lot of commenters or a lot of conversations are sparked in misogyny because it is a controversial topic, and it's a topic that can be very reactionary for women.
Well, didn't you, when I asked the question earlier, didn't you just outright say, yeah, I think the podcast is misogynistic?
I was reading from what I had said a year ago, and the notion that
didn't you tell my staff that the podcast, Nick, did she?
I said I was blocked on Instagram because I called that podcast misogynistic.
I don't even think in your original messages did you even say misogynistic?
Yes, I did.
I think
if
you
you
said
want to pull it up again.
We could pull it up again really quick just so I can scan it. Nick. I mostly zoned in on exploitation. There's a lot of exploitation, young women, women of color, it's up. I don't know if I saw an accusation of actual misogyny.
I'm sure my prospect of downplaying the woman experience was centralized around misogyny. Yes, so, that's correct.
But correct me if I'm wrong, but I do think you indicated either behind the scenes, in messages, or even on the show that you view the podcast, I don't know if it's myself, as misogynistic.
Yes.
And then I think you did too?
Yeah, I mean, can I ask you a question and you respond to it, engage with it like in good faith and so genuine?
Well, allow me to ask a couple of my questions first, but you think that the podcast is misogynistic?
I believe that you benefit from misogyny, and I think that has misogynist
from misogyny.
Well, here's my question. I'm just going to ask it.
Well, hold on. I'm in the middle of.
Well, you asked me a question. My question is
thread.
A response to what you just asked. Why do you think it is that every person who sends you money is saying something misogynistic if you don't benefit from misogyny?
Are you new to the internet? Like, do you realize how when you have anonymity and you have just total on YouTube, these are all anonymous people, super toxic. I don't co-sign. I even said I disavow some of their statements.
You might not co-sign, but I'm asking why. I mean, none of it's like, say, anti-Semitic. None of it's like other isms that we could do with our anonymity. It's all sexism and misogyny. So why do you think those people are watching you and sending you money, if not you benefiting from misogyny and stoking that for your own personal benefit?
Well, I think you're making a lot of assumptions there that are not based in reality at all.
You can read the comments and say they're misogynist. If you say they're not, that doesn't make them not.
We're doing a live.
Fine, then all the commenters who comment on your behalf are misandrous then.
Sure. Go for it.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, right?
So, again, everything's anonymous. As a man, I don't know how to take responsibility for what other people say. So I can have a conversation about the things that I discuss on the podcast, but I can't I don't know how to be responsible for what somebody else says, especially somebody who says it anonymously. So
I didn't say you were responsible for it, but I think you benefit from it and you intentionally engage with those comments and you stoke that kind of discord.
Did you say you consider yourself a feminist?
I do.
Okay. So you benefit from a misandrous system. Now, I'm one podcast. You were talking about systemic. What was the other word you used? There's systemic, and then there was another word I'm trying to remember. Institutional. So I have one podcast. You're a feminist. I have absolutely no power compared to the absolute Goliath that is feminism. You're laughing. Every single university in this country has a feminist studies program, a women's studies program, a gender studies program. Every single universities, all these universities are systems, and these systems have $100 million endowments. That's what I'm up against. You guys have all the power. Feminism has all the power. It has infiltrated all the institutions of higher education, government, media, corporations. Do you think my message is the mainstream? I'm the counterculture.
No, I don't think
I'm the counterculture. You, as a feminist, possess all the systemic and institutional power in this country.
I would disagree with that. I think that's
how is that
inane.
in government, in media, in corporations, in the higher education system? Feminism has 100% control. It is the status quo. How can you sit here and say that? And feminism preaches an absolutely man-hating ideology. The core tenet of feminism is the patriarchy theory, which in my view is a absurd conspiracy theory.
What would you say the patriarchy theory is?
I mean, there's different definitions of it. It's this idea that men hold all the power, women are precluded from having any power, and that men as a class are oppressors and women are the oppressed. If that's what you're teaching people in these systems, in this systems of education, you're teaching women to have absolute contempt and hatred towards men. If you're teaching women that they are oppressed and that men are the fault of that and that men are the oppressors, you hold all the cards, you hold all the power.
So what do you think we should be teaching women?
Well, I think that the first thing is that if you experience any sort of ridicule whatsoever from a dynamic, that you don't disparage them. Instead, you hear what they have to say. In this particular case, Brian points out something which is very interesting. Who holds the institutional powers at the incel or the feminist? You tell me.
I would say that incels do not hold any institutional power, but I would say this is also getting away from my original question, which was, I guess not a question, it's more of a statement. You benefit from misogyny. It doesn't matter who has the institutional power.
You benefit from misogyny. If you didn't, you wouldn't be here right now.
I benefit from misogyny?
You must, because your claim here is that a bunch of misogynists are having you on to spread your message.
I mean, I guess in that way I do benefit from it, but then
I guess you do. I guess you benefit from all this misogyny.
So you admit that he also benefits from it. He also benefits from it, right?
I don't even know what that argument is, though.
I'll let you reclassify the word to misogyny, as long as you say that a bunch of patriarchist misogynists are benefiting you by allowing your message to go out to them. Go ahead and say that for us, if you don't mind.
The thing is, my message is not going out to a sympathetic crowd right now. I mean, you can see who's watching and who's sending money. No one who's listening is going to... I didn't know what this podcast was when they invited me on. I was invited on 2 hours beforehand.
That's also incorrect, just so you know. Hang on. Let me just give you some framing. I understand what your framing is. Steel manning it back. Hey, I understand, but I'm in a hostile crowd. But you're really not. You might be in a hostile crowd right now with the chat, which is currently right here. However, millions of people will likely see the clips that come off of this podcast, and you will get a sympathetic ear from that. And I also don't buy that you didn't know what this podcast was.
I didn't.
I'm sure that you seem like you're the type who's diligent and does your research. Are you not that kind?
I don't watch podcasts. I don't know.
You don't? So you just agree blindly to just whatever anybody offers you?
Hold on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, yes?
No.
Did you just say yes?
Would you like to move on, or would you like me to respond?
No, I would like to just finish this real quick. I'm almost done.
Okay,
don't mind.
All right.
That was a joke. I don't actually. No,
okay, you don't actually. So you didn't do any of your due diligent research before going on a podcast. You didn't have no idea what was going to happen. You had no idea that this was a dating podcast where it's an adversarial relationship between the males and the females. You had no clue.
No, it was marketed as a dating podcast, but I kind of just did it because it sounded fun. I mean, the fact that it's hostile is...
Go ahead, final thing, and I'll go.
I was just going to say, I'm not saying that, so this is what you do, this is my only point was that you benefit from people's misogynistic viewpoints. And if that makes me benefiting from it too,
you do
sure.
too as well, right?
Sure. On this day, I'm benefiting from it, but only one of us has the podcast and does it continually. I'm just a guest benefiting from it on this day.
How could you blame a bunch of misogynist, patriarchist lunatics
Andrew,
for promoting you?
Can you center, please?
Okay.
No, can you center?
No, yeah. How can you blame a bunch of evil misogynists for allowing you to get your message out there? Does that sound like misogyny?
I mean, yeah, because they're benefiting from the misogynists who are watching.
But you're also benefiting from the misogyny.
I already admitted to that. Sure. Today, I'm making money from it.
How is this even a criticism then?
I don't even
Wouldn't this mean that misogyny was good? Wouldn't that mean misogyny is good if you're benefiting from it?
I don't even really understand.
Doc Vinably donated $200. To paraphrase Rush Limbaugh, the Whatever podcast is equal time pushing back against the systemic misandry of feminism. Evidence, The Boy Crisis by Farrell.
Very well put, Dr. Nablis.
I thought Rush Limbaugh was dead.
Okay.
I just think it's weird that it seems like
Yeah, he
most
is
of
after he destroyed an entire culture of progressive
Hello?
scumbags.
Can you hear me?
Yes, that's true.
Can you hear me?
Another.
Can you hear me?
Devon Jackson donated $200. As someone who's sent as much if not more money to this podcast than anyone, I can assure you I've never said anything misogynistic, so from the bottom of my heart, fuck you, the individual, not the woman.
So, okay, you're saying that I benefit, but what is really, thank you, Davon, I don't really understand your argument here, because, like, let's say, for example, Joe Biden received political contributions from a, like, radical feminist group that hates men.
Which he does.
Sure. Like, does that mean that he, just because he receives the support of a radical group, that he necessarily, and look, I don't want to get into Joe Biden's views on shit, but does that mean that he co-signs those views because he has received the support of said group? And we've seen this a lot from Trump, where Trump will get an endorsement from somebody who's a radical in some way, and then that is somehow... It must mean it's a reflection on Donald Trump's precise political views and ideology, when that's not the case. So I'm just not really sure what your argument is.
I didn't say you were co-signing it. That your own opinions on women are your own, but my only argument is that you're benefiting
Grid
from it
One
financially.
Motorsports donated $200.
Okay.
I rebuke the claim of misogyny. However, I will call stupid and would prefer brutal honesty to comfortable lies.
Yeah.
I can see why you would not. The patriarchy is here to help you, not Brixton.
Thank you, Grid One Motorsports. Appreciate it. Okay, so you view the podcast as anyone here else think the podcast is misogynistic?
I don't really watch it, so I am not able
Do
to
you?
determine that.
Look, I just want to say this, and I'll make it quick. I find it weird that a lot of your audience seems to either... I wouldn't say that they hate women, but
Okay.
it's like women that do like OnlyFans or like sex work, and then they pay a lot of money just so they can like insult women. And that's odd to me. I'm not saying what everyone else at the table is saying, but I'm saying that that is
Okay,
weird and it's negative.
Exclude the viewers, exclude the audience of the things that are discussed on the podcast. Do you view the podcast as misogynistic?
No.
Okay, but you two do. So I have a question. You use the word. How do you split, please? Ooh, okay. How do you define misogyny?
I would say that it's not opinion-based, rather the instigating of anti-woman concepts. So anytime you ask a question, there's kind of an automatic rebuttal. So you're going into it of, oh, well, women should do this but shouldn't do this, and women should feel this way but they feel this way, or putting words into everyone's mouths, I think kind of promotes this idea of misogyny. Obviously it's a blanket term, and I do feel as it was overused, and I apologize, but I do think to some capacity benefiting off of the hatred.
You're not answering the question.
Okay, my perspective of I define
misogyny
misogyny as expressing hatred towards women from a gender standpoint rather than an objective opinion or material matter, such as hating on a woman for how she looks, telling a woman that she is incompetent or dumb, more
What
based
if she
off
is? Is it misogynistic then to tell an incompetent person they're incompetent? Not that I've done that, but...
Is it an opinion?
What?
Dick Bick Energy donated $200. Would happily support a podcast that's promoting celibacy, virginity, and lifetime godly marriages. We're supporting because we understand we're steering the culture in a positive direction.
That's what we should be doing. Yeah.
Thank you, DBE. Thank you, man.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
And I think I loved like your conversation. And I think we often get boxed into this idea of I have to have this opinion or I have to have this other opinion just because we perceive one thing said as a certain way. I think being called bratty for having my own opinion is highlighted in misogyny. I think if I were a man, a lot of my opinions would be perceived in a different way. So I think that misogyny is more...
we would assume you would be making sound arguments and we would take it...
That is misogyny. If you assume I would be making sound arguments because I was a man, that is misogynistic.
Yeah, I mean, you really just like are digging yourself into a hole.
How's that
What do you
misogynistic?
mean? What do I mean?
You're really just
You
digging your
just
own
said
grave.
if I were
You
a
haven't
man.
made a single good argument all night. Why
So
would
if
anyone
I
take
was
you
a
seriously?
man, you would assume I would be making sound arguments, but because I'm
Yes,
a woman,
because
I can't make a sound argument.
Do you know why the precondition applies here? Because we've listened to you
Killer of
make
Cereal
nothing but
donated
relevant,
$200.
rational arguments.
Hold on.
How
the
many
entire
women
time.
also donate to this podcast? Are they incel misogynistic degenerate men because they are female? Changing a perspective from a debate isn't misogynistic. The change was already in you.
Correct. That chatter's right.
Wait,
So
hold
the point here is,
hold on. Kill of Cereal, thank you. Just to prove his point, I have a chat that's about to come in here from Conservative Latina. Thank you. Love seeing Isabella on the pod. You're
Hi.
awesome, girl. Q for the girls. Can women be sexist towards men? How would you feel if you heard men saying, I hate all women like women do? Also, Christ is king. Thank you, Conservative Latina. I'll ask that question a little bit later. I'll get back to that, though. I have it written down. Thank you. Or Andrew, you had...
Go ahead.
Yeah, what I was saying specifically is we've only judged you on the merits of what you said and the arguments that you've made. If you've acted like a brat, I don't recall calling you one.
I didn't call you a brat.
And Brian, I don't recall
talking about you
calling you
guys.
one either.
No. I didn't say you guys. I was saying from the chat. It's okay for people to perceive
Yeah, but
me that way.
why is it that the people who tune into the show you're so adamant about, you're having the discussion with us, who's viewing it should be relevant to that. They're going to judge you on your
Okay.
arguments as well. And you know what? That's the most fair way to do things. Do you think that when I'm in debates with these massive liberal progressives all over the internet that I'm not getting judged by their audience? Because I am. And the last thing I say is, oh my God, they're judging me. It's terrible. That's ridiculous. Make the arguments and let's engage with them.
What's the name of this live?
So, I don't know if I got a clear answer on this. How do you define misogyny?
I just feel like no matter what I say, my opinion's gonna be wrong. So I would love to start having a conversation, like even
Just
with you about
here,
these other
can you
topics.
just engage really quick?
What do you want me to engage in? Because I'm constantly being shut
you
down
got
and told I'm
interrupted. There was an
wrong.
interruption from the TTS. Just if we can do Splitnik. So just how do you define misogyny?
I define misogyny as exactly what he said to me. If I
Okay,
were a
you
man,
got it.
I would be making sound arguments. I believe misogyny is
That's
defined
actually not
as,
what I said.
You did say. Did he say
No,
that or
no,
did he not say that?
ignore-
I was
just
actually
ignore what he
granting
said.
your worldview. Just so you know, so you
Women-
understand, I was granting your worldview.
Okay.
And I was saying because the precondition
If-
is you think that if you were a man, you'd be making sound arguments. That's what my point was.
Okay, I'm sorry if I misunderstood you. My
Well, maybe
opinion,
I wasn't
misogyny.
clear, so I'll apologize if I wasn't clear.
No, don't worry.
That's my bad.
Misogyny is founded in discrediting certain opinions or perspectives by being equated to womanness. So when a woman is loud, she's aggressive. But when a man is loud, he is a boss. He is a leader. Those are misogynistic perspectives
Grid
in
1
society.
Motorsports donated $200. Dollar Store Blondie, we have listened to your inaccurate, trite, and wandering prattle all night. Perhaps you feel guilty about how you live your life in sin, acting a victim, and being argumentative.
Maybe, but a perfect example of misogyny is how am I more argumentative than you two? Do you see my perspective? Yeah, but
Well,
that
because
person.
between the two of us, you've said twice as much as I have when I've been discussing things with you.
Dick
That's
Big
why.
Energy donated $200. Misogyny is literally disagreeing
not
with
at
women.
all what I think.
If we don't stop this BS now, they lock us up for it. The hour is late, gentlemen.
That's right. disagreeing with women, it's going to be a felony pretty soon, guys.
That is not at all what I
soon.
think. I don't hate all men. I love many men.
Do you believe in the patriarchy theory? Or do you believe that there's a patriarchy?
It is objective that our society is patriarchal.
It's objective.
We literally are defined in every history book as a patriarchal
Stinky Fingers
society.
donated $200. Not being able to adequately annotate your opinions as a speaker in this podcast does not infer misogyny.
Okay.
This is your moment to be heard, and as guests, failing to be correct says something about you.
Okay, Sticky Fingers, thank you. How do you define misogyny?
The hatred of women.
Okay, so how have I hated women?
I didn't say you did. I said you're benefiting from the hatred of women.
No, but you said okay, but that's a different conversation.
Oh, you mean like saying, okay.
You said that the podcast is
Well, then,
misogynistic.
so are you, by your own admission. That makes you a misogynist.
Don't engage on that.
Maybe I should rethink my phrasing there then, because I think saying the podcast is misogynist implies that you are a misogynist and you're out with the intention to degrade women and whatever. And whether or not I believe that, I'm not going to accuse you of that. So if that's what you're defining the podcast as being misogynist as, I would say maybe it's not. But you are, without a doubt, you can't even deny that you are benefiting from people who have negative opinions of women and negative biases towards women. Whether that makes the podcast itself misogynist, I guess, is up for debate. Like, I don't know.
Wait, so I have a question. Yeah. If a National Socialist, do you have like a Cash App or a Venmo or something?
I do.
And they were to just send you, are you in content creation at all, or?
A little bit.
Do you have any, like a link tree that links your Cash App or Venmo or anything like that? Let's just say they found it and the National Socialist sent you $200. You're benefiting from a Nazi.
Yeah, but I think there's a difference between Okay, so these people who are sending you money are frequent viewers. They like your content, they engage with it, they enjoy it, they come back for more. If someone were to randomly find me and send me $200 just because whatever reason, that's not the same thing. It's not comparable. Like, these people are your fans. They are your viewers. They most likely agree with a good portion of what you say, otherwise they wouldn't be watching.
You go to UCSB, right?
I do.
So you pay tuition to UCSB?
Yes.
Okay. So I would argue that the feminist studies program at UCSB, and all, there's women's studies, feminist studies at every single university in this country. There's no corresponding men's studies at any university, as far as I'm concerned, as far as I know. Then aren't all these universities misandrist because they're benefiting from the tuition that these feminist studies majors are putting towards these universities? So every single university, every single system is just a man-hating system, and they're all benefiting from feminist misandry. And
well, I don't agree that feminism is misandrist.
It absolutely is.
Well, we disagree, so you can't argue on that point because I just don't agree with that.
Well, let's talk about patriarchy a little bit then. Yeah. So you were about to define patriarchy. I don't know if you finished.
Noah donated $200. So if I say that all women are dumb, I'm a misogynist. But a woman can openly say all men are dumb and no one bats an eye. Double standards abroad, boys.
So no women here, to clarify, are saying all men are dumb, because I don't believe that. I absolutely do not believe that. No. I don't believe that all men are dumb. I don't believe all men are bad. I don't believe in categorizing people.
Are you less safe at night because of men?
From a statistical standpoint, yes, because men...
It's a bit racist, or sorry, not racist. It's a bit sexist, don't you think?
Well, is it sexist or is it objective in the sense that majority of assault... Okay, for example, at UCSB, Elliot Rogers. Oh my God. Let's talk about Elliot Rogers. Okay, never mind. We're not allowed to talk about it, but that's a perfect example of women and men being unsafe because of someone with misogynistic perspective.
Yeah, let's talk about Mattress Girl then, and talk about how many of these false allegations come out of these women who make these pretentious SA claims, which are completely and totally unfounded, which ruin men's lives.
I think that is terrible.
Has complete and total control over throwing them out and ruining their lives, absent any criminal investigation whatsoever. Let's talk about that.
Statistically, that is much less likely than a SA allegation being founded in truth, and majority
prove it.
Okay, statistically,
prove that false allegations are more common.
Yeah, like
you prove it.
I know so many women.
So here's the thing: we can prove it. So let's take a look
go
at it
ahead.
objectively.
Go ahead.
When you say SA, you also will make the bold claim. Then these are consent claims where you will claim that a woman, after she's engaged in the deed, can take consent away. Yes,
disagree.
they do it all the time, and you know that's done.
I am not that woman, and I would
I'm
argue
not
that
saying
is
you
not
are, but
majority
I
of
just
women
want you
that
to
do
acknowledge that is done.
I'm sure it has happened the same way that men have gone and actually assaulted certain women. Absolutely. And majority of those cases are never reported.
Women. I have no dispute with that claim.
And majority of men who are SA'd, it's by other men.
It's neat that you will only acknowledge that men are engaged in this SA culture, but you don't acknowledge that the counter to this is that women often make up these false SA assaults.
When did I
and
not
men have
acknowledge that?
Absolutely no way to have any recourse because it's done outside of even a criminal justice system.
This is what I was talking about when I feel like this podcast is just telling me my opinions. I completely disagree.
I'm not telling you your opinion.
I completely disagree with women doing false accusations. I think that is a horrible thing to do to someone else. It is not something I would ever do, nor do I agree with, nor do I promote. I think there should be full criminal investigations. I think there should be
why do I get the feeling that you have a woman's right to choose sign up, but you've never had a let's investigate the men who are falsely accused of SA.
I would 100%, if there were men who were falsely accused of SA, I would 100% be in support of promoting further investigation into those cases, the same way I would promote further investigation into any SA charge.
And I think one of the issues is we're trying to talk about like an issue that can be prominent to women and it's being overridden by, but what about this? When we should be discussing like one issue at a time.
But that's
let's
what
put our
aboutism
focus
to
on
begin
one thing
with.
and then we put our focus on the next thing.
Yeah,
but it's a whataboutism to begin with.
And then you're
so
also,
if you're going to use a whataboutism as your argument, it's fair play to use a whataboutism back against it.
And sure, but you're also telling me I have a different political ideology that I haven't discussed on and I haven't spoken on because
well, then let me just ask you directly so that I'm not strawmanning anything at all. Are you pro-choice?
For me personally, I am pro-choice. I personally would choose to not have an under the United States Clause of Privacy, under the United States Clause of Privacy, I believe women have the right of privacy to their body and their own autonomy choice. Whether or not I would do it myself is a different conversation. I personally think I would not be able to live with that because I very deeply want to be a mother. And I think.
And have you engaged in political activism?
No.
Never?
I mean, not to a sustainable capacity. No.
What does that mean?
I'm not in politics.
That's not
don't
what I'm
directly
asking.
change laws.
If you've ever engaged in political activism. Have you been out there marching with BLM? Have you been doing things like this ever?
Maybe when I was young.
Yeah, okay, gotcha. And have you ever marched for any men's rights advocacy whatsoever, ever?
I don't see the relevance if it's not something I
have you or
actively
haven't
do.
you?
I just don't see the relevance.
Because the relevance is showing you this, that it's interesting that on the one hand you say, I'm totally against all of these things.
Okay,
but when you're
then
engaged in political activism,
finish.
hang on, I'm trying
finish.
to tell you so that you know. Do you want to hear the answer or not?
Go ahead.
When you say I'm engaged in all this political activism or even a minor amount of political activism, that the political activism that you're engaged in is never for men's rights advocacy, while at the other corner of your mouth you say that you would be for men's rights advocation under these certain conditions. But of course your political advocacy never reflects that.
I actually have advocated online several times and in several conversations on my social media platforms. I do poetry on TikTok as well as live discussions on my TikTok. I have talked about how men's unalive rates are extremely high in our country, and that is a problem I am very passionate about. And I have seen a lot of men.
I'm guessing you blame it on the patriarchy, right?
Why are you guessing what I am doing? Why are you telling me my opinion?
I'll just ask you directly. Who do you blame it on? The patriarchy or feminism?
I would never blame. I would never blame such a horrible issue.
Andrew, she says you're not a good debater.
I would never.
Really a bad debater.
I would never blame such a sensitive and horrible issue on any specific thing.
The only way that I can get this woman's positions out is to guess at them because she won't tell us them. She hides them.
I just told you.
And she hides them on purpose. Every time I've asked a probing question, it's always hidden. It's always a word
Okay,
salad.
So
It's
let's
never direct.
unpack.
So let me just ask you directly.
Please.
Are you a progressive feminist who is pro-choice, who believes that a patriarchal system is oppressing women or not?
Those are two specific blanket terms, and I
Yeah,
don't
so
agree with
answer
blanket term
two
ideology.
specific questions then. Do you believe that a patriarchy is oppressing women, and are you a progressive feminist who is pro-choice?
No.
Okay, so you're not pro-choice?
I am pro-choice, but these are such
And are you a
specific.
progressive?
You had
You
two
are boxing
questions in there
people.
to get an answer out
You-
of her and then corner
You
her.
Yeah,
are
it's
boxing
impossible to
people
get an answer out of her.
Because life is not
To
so
corner
black
her.
and white. People can have
It's
different
not,
opinions.
okay.
People can be pro-choice for others and personally pro-life. People
Yeah,
can
I'm not
believe that
disputing the
men
nuance.
have
I'm just
problems
asking
in
if you're
society and
pro-choice.
women have problems in society. I believe that many groups of people suffer in their own unique way. I think that is really invalid to do such drastic blanket terms on such vast issues, in my opinion.
Okay. Okay, let's try this a different way then. If you had to choose between progressive, liberal feminists,
Why do I have
or
to choose?
conservative, or if you had to, it's a hypothetical, or traditional values female, which one would you pick?
I would pick neither.
If you had to.
Why do I have to? There's no world in
Because
which I
that's
have
the
to.
point of the
Yeah,
hypothetical.
but you're
if you had
instigating.
to.
You're instigating on things that I don't politically align with.
Just
It doesn't
engage.
matter.
Just try to engage in the hypothetical.
Okay, maybe it doesn't matter, but a hypothetical is designed to test your logic. So
Breakfast.
let me ask the
Breakfast
gal in
question.
yellow who thinks that I'm a terrible debater. Same question posed to you. Let's see if you can answer it. Traditional, tradcon, traditional conservative values. You believe in conservatism. Progressive feminist. You had to choose the label. Which one do you choose?
I think if I had to choose which one I am,
Yeah.
progressive feminist.
Yeah, exactly. So now back over to you. Now that you saw that somebody can actually give a straight answer, which one would you choose?
I'm declining this conversation.
Yeah, that's
I don't
right.
agree.
Because
I don't
you don't
agree
want to be
further.
honest.
Light
It has
that
nothing
cigarette.
to do with honesty. It has
Light it up,
everything to
Andrew.
do with me personally aligning with certain political ideologies
Not
that
saying
don't,
you do. I'm saying
that
if you
don't
had to choose
coincide.
between the two, hypothetically, you only have these two to choose from. Which one would you be more aligned with? You don't know? You don't even know? You engage in political activism, you don't know which side you're more politically activated on?
When did I say I engage in political activism?
I just got it out of you 5 seconds ago. Asked you if you marched with Black Lives Matter. You said, sure, when I was younger, that's political activism. So now back to this. If you had to choose between the two, which one would you choose?
You got this. I believe in you.
Guys, that's so condescending. My point is that two things.
You got this.
Condescending.
Two things.
Just answer the
can
question.
coexist.
Holy shit. It's
But
hypothetical
why-
though if you had to pick. Oh my god, fine. She won't do it. Okay, hold on.